The people who are winning in our industry just do a little bit more than everybody else. They just do a little bit more than everybody else, and they get a lot more results.
Well, all right, guys, let's dive into the topic. So my name is Grant Lieber. I'm joined by two good friends that have very graciously invited me to be part of their now trio, Ashton and Ryan. And gentlemen, we're kind of continuing in this little series that we've been doing, which is around helping somebody that's a new agent really determine what standards they need to get started quickly to win at a high level. And we really wanted to dive into today was a little bit more of the tangible things that you can actually do on a daily or weekly basis to know that you are setting and meeting the standards that you have for the kind of business that you want, the level of production you want, and the kind of agent that you want to be. And so I really wanted to kind of round robin this topic of, for all of us that have not only gone through the learning curve personally, but also have mentored, hundreds and hundreds of people through the learning curve to really create some guides, some tips, some tricks that you can use as you are working through your own journey, or also if you're maybe someone who's developing an agency and you're working through helping other people go through their journey as well. And so I guess the one example I kind of wanted to give as we're kind of opening up this is when you have someone that's brand new, they're coming in and they've really decided that they're making a commitment to win here. One of the first things that you have to learn is the scripting, right? You have a phone script, you have a presentation script. Step one in any sales organization is to understand what is the process, how do we work the leads that have been sourced, and how do we convert those to appointments and ultimately to sales. And so when it comes down to memorization, it's probably the most underrated portion of training on scripting. And there's three phases that comes in when you're getting started with a script. There's memorization, then there's mastery, and then there's ownership. Memorization is when you don't know it at all. It's brand new to you, and you're just trying to get yourself up and going and off the ground. Once you have that script down to the point where I could wake you up at 3:00 in the morning and you're running downstairs because, the house is on fire, you could tell me the phone script word for word and have it memorized, then that's how you know that you've mastered it. And when you've mastered it, you can have a conversation with people instead of having to read through this script. Because once you can get to the point of having a conversation, that's where you're going to create a relationship with a client that's going to get you to the appointment or get you to the sale. And then once you've mastered it, you've earned the right to make some slight modifications so that it is a little bit more personal to you and your style. And that might be adding some certain word changes, some scripting changes, nothing that's going to tremendously damage the initial, process, but just some things that make it a little bit more custom to you. And so one of the biggest tools that a new agent can do is what we call the 777 rule. And it's a time-consuming process, but I can guarantee that if you take it seriously, it's going to help you have this thing memorized and check off that first box.
It's not that time-consuming, man. It's really like, I get it for somebody who's new coming in, but like, this is just not that time-consuming, especially for how impactful it is. So sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, man, but lay it out for me.
That's fair. And I guess this just goes back to, what we've talked about on previous episodes, that you have to be committed to do these things if you want to win at a high level. This is the activity. You're right. It's not that much work, but it is something you have to do if you are serious about being a professional and earning a strong income in the insurance space. So what the 777 rule means is you take your script. You're going to read it 7 times out loud as you are reading it. So you got it in front of you. Then you are going to have your script, have a blank piece of paper, and you are going to write out, not type out, write out 7 times the entire script. Then you are going to recite from memory the whole script and say it out loud without having any aids. So when you do that, when you read it while you got it in front of you, write it out, and then recite it from memory, you are going to have that thing locked down by the time that you are done with it. And that is one example of a tool that is letting you know, I'm setting the standard, that I'm disciplined, I'm a professional, and I'm committed to learning this thing. So I wanted to really use that as kind of the intro here, because I know that you two have so many processes that you have done personally and that you help newer agents go through as you bring them onto the team and you really help them get up and running. So I guess, Ryan, I'll start with you, man. Like, when you have someone and we're kind of looking at getting up and running and being profitable quickly, what are those things that you're encouraging people to do? Another thing is, what do you maybe see the people that win at a high level? What activity do they do? And then maybe what does like the agent A versus agent B kind of look like?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Well, I think that strategy is just so impactful. If you haven't done it and you're struggling with the script, or you're struggling with any script, writing it out on paper, like there's something about having a pen and a piece of paper and actually physically writing it that imprints on the brain. And it doesn't work to type it out. It doesn't work if you have like an iPad that you're writing on. For some reason, it's got to be a pen and paper that you're actually writing it on. Yep. And who knows, maybe, Stanford will do some research about like our ancestry and why like pen to paper is so much more effective. But just following that advice is great advice. I would say like on that side, there's 4 stages of mastery. And I didn't come up with these stages. They were stages that were defined well before I got into sales. But the first stage is memorization. That's what Grant's talking about, is memorizing a process that works. And luckily, we're in a company where our process works really well. And it's a great place to start from, regardless of your background. So it's memorization, then it's repetition. And it's actually doing the process that's proven over and over and over again before you make any changes to it. Naturally, you will gain ownership, right? Where you've done it so many times, now you kind of say it in your own way. And then that turns into mastery, where it's what you do. You don't know, like somebody listens to me make outbound phone calls to clients, and then they're like, hey, when they said this, what did you say? I don't know what I said, right? It's what I do now. It's who I am, right? It just comes out. It wasn't planned. I've just done it so many times that now I have mastery in this particular space. So I think that leading people on that path, like your first question was the process for helping new people get started. It starts with memorization and repetition. This is why committing to doing the volume of activity that's required is so important in the beginning, because if you don't do enough repetition, you can never get to ownership. If you don't do enough repetition, you can never figure out what works and what doesn't work enough to make the script your own and be super comfortable talking with people in your own voice with the way that you would say something, right? So I think that's the commitment to memorization and to repetition has got to be the cornerstone when a new person is starting. I'll make one tiny adjustment to that, is that if you're coming into a business that's based, like, let's say that I've used this example a lot. Let's say you want to be a plumber, right? But you have no experience plumbing. You should probably be doing some work to learn how to plumb stuff, right? Along the way, not just going to people's houses and quoting them jobs for plumbing and hoping that everything works out. So if you've never done sales before, you should probably be doing some studying on sales, how to have interpersonal communication, how to present things, how to relieve sales resistance, following people like Jeremy Miner, who's incredibly powerful at this stuff, and some of the other new sales techniques that are out there in the market today that are working in today's environment, and just general principles of communication, right? Following that process while you're learning the script and while you're learning the rebuttals and all that stuff, also investing in learning how to sell, probably pretty important if you've never done sales before and you're going to be in our industry. The last question that you asked, I think, was just about sort of ongoing improvement. And that's one of the things that, man, our industry is one that is vast, and there's a lot of ways to make money. There's a lot of ways to help people in our industry. There's a lot of impact that we can make. And I don't know that I've ever stopped learning. And so I think that, I guess, the point of this podcast episode, as I understand it, is that the people who are winning in our industry just do a little bit more than everybody else. They do a little bit more than is required. They go that extra effort. They don't have to, because they're making money. They don't have to learn how infinite banking works. Mm-hmm. They don't have to learn how to convert on a digital lead and like how to open up to a digital lead differently than to an analog lead. But they just do a little bit more than everybody else, and they get a lot more results from just doing. It's not even that much more. they're not even working that much more than you are. They're doing that little extra effort. There's a great book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. That's about that, having a slight edge mentality where I'm doing just slightly more, a little bit more than what's required. And I'm reaping the rewards of that. And so if you're new and you're getting started in this, if you plan on just, I planned on just doing double whatever they told me. They're like, do 300 dials. I was like, I'm going to do 600. That's a lot more, right? Maybe you just start off with, they say 300 dials, I'm going to do 400. Maybe you start off with, they say 15 appointments, I'm going to do 18, right? You don't have to be like, I'm going to do 30. But if you outperform the metrics, if you overwork the job, the results always work. I've never seen a single time that somebody's done way more dials and set way more appointments than what we say, and they've been unsuccessful. It just doesn't happen. So I think that would be my thoughts, I guess, in starting.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, be curious, right? That's, I think, what a lot of successful people here do is they're curious as to what are the people who are winning at a high level doing. And they ask those questions, and they do go the extra mile to do a little bit extra when it comes to studying their craft, and when you look at like somebody who's maybe brand new coming into this, you have to look at it from the lens of how did it start when I was new at anything? If you're someone who, let's say you've never swung a baseball bat before, and we're going to teach you how to play baseball, I'm going to take you to the batting cages. And if I take you to the batting cages and I said, you know what, Ashton, I spent all my money on a baseball bat, so I only can afford to buy like 3 baseballs. But I'm sure that like you're pretty, you're a young strapping lad. I'm sure you'll be able to figure this out pretty quick. And so I throw I teach you how to stand in the box. I teach you how to get ready. And then I go, all right, I'm gonna throw the ball, and all you got to do is just watch it until it comes at you and swing it and hit it. And then you're like, okay. And then I throw the ball, and you like totally whiff it. You just totally miss. And then I'm like, hey, it's okay. That was your first one. And then I throw the second one, and then like you were a little bit closer, but you still totally missed. And then the last one, you like foul tip it. And then we're like, all right, man, well, I think that's it for it. That was my 3 baseballs. So you now you're ready to go. And that sounds very ridiculous, right? Because if I was going to go to the batting cages and we were going to really learn how to do this, we would have hundreds and hundreds of baseballs come at you, and we'd spend the whole day really practicing it until you got proficient. But so many people treat their business like that 3 baseball approach. And it's crazy to see. And so, Ashton, I know as you've gone through a learning curve, and as you've helped other people get through the learning curve, you've probably seen that. Sure, we've all seen examples of that. You've also seen people that have gone the extra mile. Like, what does it look like for you when you do see that agent that is kind of self-sufficient? They're taking it seriously. Like, what are the activities that you see someone who wins does?
Yeah, and I mean, there's really 2 approaches to this. Like we talked about, hey, you can go out there and you can memorize everything. Make sure to go memorize it, get it done, do it however you want. You want to write it out 20,000 times. You want to record yourself saying it and play it back while you sleep, so like it seeps into your brain while you're sleeping. You do whatever you want, like memorize the script. There's also another way, which is the way I did it, but I have to preface it to everyone. You can just go out there and just start doing it. Now, here's the thing. You're going to lose a lot of sales. You're going to have a lot of things that you're going to lose a lot of money because you're going to be throwing away leads because you're not properly working. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing, and you're just winging it. But for me, like, I was okay with that. I mean, I didn't have a bunch of money just throw away, but for me, like, I knew, like, I don't enjoy just sitting down trying to memorize something, but I was okay with the alternative. So, hey, like, if you're not okay with, hey, I'm going to throw a bunch of money, like, hey, I might get nothing back this week. I'm going to go get leads. I'm going to go put in 20, 30 hours of calling people this week, run appointments, and I get nothing. If you don't like that potential result, then don't wing it. Don't do what I did. Don't go wing it. Go sit down and memorize it. And I tell you, like, there's no wrong answer, but you have to be okay with what the result should be. Hey, if I've never built a rocket before, I'm like, I'm not going to read a science book. I'm not going to watch a YouTube video on how to do it, and I just go try to do it. Am I going to be surprised if it doesn't work? No. It's literal rocket science. Like, I'm not going to be surprised when it fails. So when I go, hey, if I didn't study the script, if I didn't look at it before I ever called the first person, my upline, when he called me, he goes, all right, you ready to run over the script? I was like, yeah, I am. He's like, great, you've looked at it, right? I was like, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He
For the
thankfully
first
didn't
time.
ask me another question because it was the first time I ever looked at it. He's all right, let's run through it. I was like, all right, here we go. And that was the first time I ever even looked at the script. Was right after the live role play. That's me though. That's how I've always been. And I know that, and I'm okay in the beginning. If I don't get that result I'm looking for, I understand. Because hey, I'm learning through repetition, like we talked about before. And just go there. If you do it and you do it enough times, you'll eventually get to the place to where you're mastering it. You know, we have that example. If you're trying to make a clay pot, a clay jar, those first ones are going to be horrible. But if I sit here and I've done it 10, 20, 30,000 times, well, there's going to be a point to where it's a rote memorization anyways, and I'm going to be very good at it. But that's the way I did it because I was okay with not getting that result. I mean, coming in, going through, and, you know, for us, we have a video step-by-step training platform where it unlocks the training as you need it. And going through and watching those videos, understanding the concepts, getting the materials, filling out the worksheets we're giving you with it to help you pay attention. Doing those things is going to help you greatly. And one thing that I love the most is actually recording yourself doing the script. And I don't think we really talked about that yet. You know, actually playing it back. No one likes to hear their voice. Sure. I mean, play it to your mom. I don't know, do something. But playing that back and going, how does this sound? One of the best things I ever learned from someone who taught me how to do sales was when I say something, whatever it is, ask that person, how did this make you feel when I said whatever it was? And if it's not the response you were hoping to elicit, well, you need to change. Someone gives you the objection, not interested. Well, would you like me to show you some products? All right. Well, hey, how'd that make you feel? Kind of make me feel like you're being real pushy. Well, I don't want you to feel like I'm being pushy. All right. Well, I need to work on how I'm coming across with that. Versus like, oh, hey, not a problem. Would it even help if we maybe saw some options that could help you get what you were looking for with X, Y, Z? All right. Well, how'd that make you feel? Oh, kind of made it feel like it was more collaborative. Oh, okay. That's where I'm going. So playing that back and going, how does this sound? How is this making me feel is going to be one of the greatest things to helping you in that beginning part, especially going through scripting.
Oof. A lot of powerful stuff there. Yeah. And one of the things you said earlier is you kind of talked about that you were willing to buy leads, you were willing to put in effort, and you understood that you were part of a learning curve. You were in a process where you were developing your skill set. And while you're in that process, you had the understanding that like, yeah, I'm probably going to get some results, but if I don't, it's okay because I'm learning. You know, it's kind of like that idea of, you know, we society teaches you to go to college, right? That's kind of one of the things. The whole point of like going to school in high school is to prep you to go to college. And then you go to college and you spend 4 years there and you spend tons and tons of money. And then after you come out of that, you're supposed to have a degree that's supposed to add value to you in the marketplace. Yeah. You're supposed to have some skills that now make you more qualified to earn a higher level of income than those that didn't. And again, it's not a political podcast. We're not going to talk about the pros and cons of going to college. But the point being is that most people are willing to spend potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars that they don't have, they had to borrow, to go and learn something that took 4 years before they ever saw a return on that investment. So, you know, a six-figure investment.
Probably more like 10 years before they ever see a return on that investment because they have to pay back all the debt.
Pay back all the debt, and they got to start low and then work their way up. Exactly. So, you know, you talk about people that are willing to spend, you know, 6 figures and 4 years before they see a return. But then you have some people that get on the phone their very first weekend, they spend a couple $100 on leads. Their first hour doesn't go as they thought it would, and now they're wanting to pack it in. It's crazy to think that, right?
No, yeah, I love this, man, because it's like understanding you, and I'm talking to all of you listening right now, understanding where you're at and what your next steps are is incredibly important to success in anything. And being able to evaluate your proficiency, your performance, your level of competence in any given area, and also be able to take that evaluation to a professional and have them look at it and tell you where they think you should get better. This is the key to any business, right? There's a lot of businesses have specialized services, accountants and consultants and CPAs and, investment strategists and things like that help them in areas that they can't see, right? Because they're doing the day-to-day. And so I love that we're talking about, okay, if you wanted to, you could absolutely come into our business, float yourself for like 6 months on all your expenses and stuff like that, and just learn everything there is to learn about what we do. Learn all of our scripts to perfection, practice every day, right? Just like you were going to college, just like Grant said, you're dedicating 50, 60 hours a week to just nothing except for learning how to get good at what we do. And if you did that for 6 months, at the end of 6 months, you're probably going to be pretty good at what we do, right? You're not going to have made any money yet. You're going to have invested a lot of money, a lot of time, and you're still going to need to go get in front of clients and learn how to work with clients, right? And learn what it's like in the real world. How many times have you learned something from a book, and then when you went to do it, it's a little bit different when you do it in real life versus just what you read in the book, right? Or online, or watch the YouTube video and then try to do something yourself. Yeah, it's different in the real world than when we learn. And so you're still going to need to go through the same learning curve with the same clients, even if you studied this and got perfect at it for 6 months. So what Ashton is saying is that you do them both at the same time, right? You learn the script while you're working with the clients, and you suck a little bit more in the beginning, and then you get faster, or you get better faster because you're learning the memorization and the performance in real time. But what goes along with that is being willing to get feedback on your results from people who know what they're doing, from professionals. And so he was saying, I consulted a mentor. I submitted my activity report. Personally, what I did, I ran very similarly. Now, I had a background in sales before I came into this industry. And so I'd done a lot in the sales industry. But after every appointment, I had a notebook. It was just a spiral bound notebook. And I would just write down some quick thoughts about the appointment, good, bad, or indifferent. If I sold it, if I got kicked out of their house, if they bought 10 apps, if they bought one app, I would just write down either what went well or what went wrong. Either I didn't build enough value, I lost them, I didn't get their emotional reason why, spouse wasn't there, whatever, or I really did a great financial, assessment with them and found the reason why they needed insurance, and I built the value around it. And I would just write quick notes. And then at the end of every week, I would go through that notebook with my direct upline, and they would give me feedback on, like, it seems like 4 or 5 of your appointments ended in the same way. Let's role play that real quick. And let's see what you're saying. Like, when you're in an appointment and you're in this situation, what are you saying? And I would get feedback from people, but I knew where I was at. And so I could go into the next week going, man, you know what? I really need to work on covering the think about it before I show prices, because I got to think about it 8 times last week. And, my direct mentor looked at it and taught me how to cover the think about it before I presented prices. Right. So I think tracking, being willing to seek feedback, understanding where you're at and what you need to learn to get to your next space. I love the idea of learning on the job, right? And just being prepared to suck a little bit more in the beginning. I think that's the best way to do it personally. But, I know a lot of people are more used to what you said, Grant. They go to school, they kind of effed off at school. If we're real about it, Grant, like, you probably could have got 4 years of college done in 2 years if there wasn't so much effing off going on, you know what I mean? Like, it messing around.
Probably 6 months.
Probably could have got everything that you learned out of college in 2 years. We just spread it out or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, so are you willing to dedicate yourself to actually learning while you're working, right? Learning while you're working in the industry. Man, I think that's so powerful for people who do that.
And seeing it as an investment in yourself. That's something, a mentor once said to me. It's like, hey, listen, we'll go to college, we'll go to school, we'll go spend an online course, we'll go spend hundreds of dollars a month, or college seminar, thousands of dollars a month,
conference,
and we'll gladly go do that. We'll go to college, and we're not going to make how much money do you make when you're in college? None. So you're gonna go spend $20,000-$30,000 to go make nothing for 4 years. Yeah. So hey, if you came into a business and we said if you invest $200-$300 a week in 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks, you're gonna develop and learn a skill set to go be able to make 6 figures a year. Would that be worth it? To be able to invest a couple $100 a week and you could make 6 figures in 6, 8, 12 weeks from now. Even if you didn't make anything in your first month, 2, maybe even 3 months, you didn't make $1, but you acquired the skill set to go make 6 figures anytime you wanted. Would that be worth an investment? Yeah. Okay. So how much do we want to invest in leads this week then?
Totally. Man, that I think is the perspective that new people coming into our industry really need, is that you're not that far away, right? This is not years of commitment that you need to get the skills that it takes to not only make multiple 6 figures, but to be able to increase your income 15, 20, 30, 50% every year, and you be the one in control of that. You're not that far away. You're like a few weeks of hard work away from, you just like need to put the hard work in, and you need to have the people around you that you can run your results by to get feedback to or from, and then put more of the hard work in. But it's like, it's not years. It's not like, you know, working in a mine for 50 years and then you get to retire. It's like 3 or 4 weeks of getting some rejection on the phones, and then you can make multiple 6 figures every year. It's not that much, you know, just commit to it and do it. But having the commitment level and then execution, I think, is where we lose most people, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, you look at, we spent 30 minutes. We've only given one actual physical, tangible, like training tool, the 7-7-7 rule. The reason that we've spent so much time talking about the mindset behind it is because that's where people need help. That's where people go astray. And so when you talk about, you know, the mindset that you two both have shared, and just kind of that like idea of, I'm willing to commit what it takes to be a professional and to win at a high level, because we're not talking about going tons of thousands of dollars into debt. We're not talking about years of time. We're talking about a matter of weeks to be at a point where you could be a multiple 6-figure income earner. I have I'll tell you, a very good friend of mine just got started in this business maybe six months ago. When he first started, he was a blackjack dealer. He was working from 6 p.m. to 4 o'clock in the morning. He made about $112,000 this last year. He made 112 grand previous, and he was never there for his wife. He was never there for his son, and he had a wacky, terrible sleep schedule. But he was making good money, you know, pulling in whatever, 8-10 grand a month. And he joined our business. He took everything seriously. He got through the course in about 4 days. He got himself licensed. I worked with him very closely, but he took all the tools to heart and he just used them. He didn't need me to call him at 9 a.m. and say, hey, man, it's time to get up and start making calls. He didn't need me to reach out to him and say, hey, here's how I need you to spend the next 12 hours. Here's your to-do list. You know, I didn't do that. And he was able to figure it out because we do have a proven process and a proven path to follow. And now, he's completely quit that job. He's there for everything for his wife. He actually just had a new baby 2 months ago. He's there for all of the firsts, all the new baby firsts. He's making double the income that he was making previously. He's only been here for 6 months.
Wow.
People call him up. They go, hey, Cody, why do you win at such a high level? What are you doing? What's the secret sauce? Did Grant, is he giving you special treatment or something? And
you got the Glengarry leads.
Is it the
Cody?
Glengarry leads? Yeah. Do you have some secret sauce? The answer is, what he said is, he goes, I do what Grant told me. I buy leads. I call leads. I book appointments. I run appointments. I write deals. And I spend my time learning how I can get better in all of those categories. I buy leads. I book appointments. I run appointments. I write deals, and I learn. That's it. And what I tell him to do was exactly what I was told to do. And it goes all the way up to the culture that our corporate office has developed and the training that our corporate office has developed. So we have such a duplicatable system that you don't have to be some incredible sales mind. Jeremy Miner it's so cool that we have access to him, that he spoke on stage at a conference, that he's developed some of our scripting, but you don't have to be a Jeremy Miner to teach someone how to be successful. There are proven steps that you follow step by step by step to make it happen. So when you have somebody like that has a lot of success very early on, a lot of people look to them and they go, what are you doing differently? And what it makes them realize is that they're the ones who's doing something differently.
Yeah.
What they are doing is that they've gotten 1% off the path for too long, and now they're way off in left field.
Yeah, you modified the recipe, right? And it's like, look, we have a Betty Crocker box of cake that's just like, if you follow steps 1 through 8, you're going to get a great tasting cake. It's already been perfected. It's been done thousands and thousands of times. But like somewhere along the way, the recipe is mix this powder up in with a cup and a quarter of milk. And somewhere along the way, we're just like, I don't like milk. So I'm going to use half a cup of water. And like, I don't like eggs, so I'm going to use oil instead, and I'm going to mix it up. And the box says to bake it at 350 for 26 minutes, but I'm going to bake it at 500 for 8 minutes. And it's like, you are modifying the recipe that works, and that's why your cake sucks. And it's like, let's go back to the original recipe and let's do what's worked for thousands and thousands of agents, and make some really great cakes until you can make them in your sleep. And that's like, we had one additional tool, right? Which was, your notebook, write down some things in your notebook and then go over it with your mentor at the end of the week. Yeah. I'll just tell you what one of the things that I learned, just to give you some value of a tool before you leave. I recorded all of the objections that I was getting into my phone. And I left about 30 seconds of space in between each one. So it would sound like this. We already got coverage. Thanks. 30 seconds of space. Oh, we changed our mind. Thanks. 30 seconds of space. Hey, can you call me back later? 30 seconds of space. And basically, it was just an audio file on my phone that I could listen to over and over and over again. And I would have 30 seconds to come up with the rebuttal to the objection. And I listened to that recording when I was cleaning the house, when I was making dinner, when I was, driving, when I was at the gym. Like, I pounded that recording into my head, and still to this day, like, I have objection rebuttals immediately in my head that I can come up with because I spent the time to learn how to react to objections. And if you don't have a level of commitment to recognizing that you have a problem and then learning how to overcome that problem, you're going to get eaten alive. And like, you're modifying the cake recipe, and your cake's going to suck. So there's your third tool.
Yep, your third tool. Don't use salt when you were told to use sugar. You're going to have a much different cake.
That's right.
This is good. And as we're kind of wrapping this topic up here, I think when you are being intentional about your journey, you're being intentional about becoming a professional and learning the process, it's that you don't allow yourself to give up too easily. Now, this is a double-edged sword, because you got to let yourself off the hook a little bit, and you got to give yourself some credit. And the whole idea behind you being a business owner is that you do have freedom that normal W-2 employees do not have. But at the same time, you have to understand that there is a season of harvest and there is a season of planting the seeds and knowing what season you're in. And so if you're somebody brand new, and maybe you're not brand new, maybe you're just someone who hasn't quite achieved the results that you are trying to get, you need to look at what activity have you done and be really, really honest with yourself. And the way that you can help, the way to help be really honest, is bring in a third party who can look at your situation and help you evaluate what's really going on. And we can maybe talk another time about how to really leverage mentorship, because that's a really big tool in this equation. But if you look at, let's say, for example, we have a spreadsheet called Counting What Counts. And on that spreadsheet, you have what leads did I take? How many hours did I spend dialing? what amount of appointments did I set? How many of them showed up? How many of them did I write? How many did I not write? What did I write if there was a policy written? And then they have notes to say like kind of what went good, bad, and the ugly. When I first started, this was not a fancy spreadsheet. It was just an email. And every single one of my my upline mentors, they said, I want you to send this to me once a week. And that's going to be how we really coach you and how we assist you. And so every week, all I sent them is I said, here's what leads I bought. Here's how much I spent on them. Here's how many dials I made. Here's how many people I spoke to. Here's how many appointments I booked. Here's how many of those showed up. Here's how many of those I wrote. Here was the annual premium and my net income for that week. And then I had a section for what went well and what didn't go so well.
Yeah.
And that was an email that I sent every single week. And it was not only was it an incredible accountability tool for myself, so that I could look back and I go, hey, it's kind of funny because I wrote $7,000 last week and it was because I booked my full 15 appointments. And then I look at, I only wrote one policy. Well, why did that happen? Oh, I only booked 7 appointments and then I gave up for the weekend and called it short. So having these tools, these accountability tools, are really going to help you track where you're at because you get what you pay attention to. What you focus on grows. So when you are looking at something like that, it's a tool that can really help you look at where you're at. If you're someone who's developing a team and an agency and you're helping other people, that is a great tool to help them get there. So as I'm kind of wrapping this part up, what I would encourage everybody to do is look at these tools, the memorization tools. We talked about the 777. You talked about how you've had a lot of success with recording the objections and kind of replaying it and being able to go back over it consistently so that you mastered it. Because professionals practice until they never get it wrong, and amateurs only practice until they get it right once. Yeah. So let's all decide to be professionals.
Mic drop. Boom. Later, everybody. We'll bring you some more content as we see fit. I'm just kidding. We'll be bringing you new content every week. So peace out, everybody. Later.